Everybody.
I come down and set up.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Oh, I'll put my light on. And if you can put yourselves on mute and bring your video on, that'd be amazing. Like to see your face.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Just going to give it a minute for everyone to arrive. So lots of faces I recognise. Hello, recognisable faces. And lots I don't. Hello those too. Lovely to see you.
Hello.
Hi. And there's more. Those of you that don't have your videos on, could I ask you to put them on so we can see your lovely faces, please? I'm not sure if that's made people go away. Might have done.
Laura, do you mind if I eat?
I don't mind if you eat. It's a lunch and learn.
Good.
Everybody should eat. I probably won't because I need to sleep. I actually ate a roast dinner at 11:30. What's that about? I thought that's a good time to have my roast dinner. A bit early. And I didn't really need to eat a whole roast either, so I might fall asleep. Okay, Jan, no worries. If you don't have a camera, that's a very good excuse. We'll just wait for a few more people to join. Dan's moving house, crikey. Oh, Dan. Dedicated.
Okay, I think that might be it, Laura.
Okay.
Make a start.
Brilliant. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming, especially those of you that are in the middle of a house move. That's quite impressive. So I'll just introduce myself. My name's Laura. I am founder of Memory Matters, and well, as a team, we've been providing Memory Matters we've been providing CST, not Memory Matters, for 10 years. So come with a bit of experience, and then obviously during lockdown we moved all of our CST online. So we're hoping that we will be able to give you some value today. I would like to introduce you to some of our team are here actually as well. So we've got Shania, who is very busily letting people in. So Shania's waving there. We've got Sophie, I can see. There's Sophie waving. Dan, I can see Dan. Dan's part of the team. Dan's waving. If there's anyone I've missed, I do apologise.
Hello. Hi, can you see me? It's Kerry.
Kerry, I can't see you. I can just see your name.
Oh,
I know.
I don't know how to do it. I've literally just logged in.
Disappointing.
But you can hear me.
I can hear you. So it would be lovely to see you. So if I can ask everyone to put themselves on mute.
Oh, I'm in.
That would be amazing. Who's got the dog?
That's me, sorry.
Do you mind putting yourself on mute?
Yeah. Oh God, how do I do that? Oh, I'll mute the dog.
I'll do it for you.
Shania can mute you. She's got magic like that. Brilliant. Okay. So all right, we'll make a start. So we've only got an hour and we've got an awful lot to cover in an hour. What I want to do very quickly is do a bit of housekeeping. So as I said, if you can keep yourselves on mute, that would be amazing. But I do like to see all your faces. I think it's nice for us all to see each other's faces. Hello, Ian Rowe. Lovely to see your face. It's been a long time. Okay, so if you want to ask a question, you can do so by hovering over the participants part down at the bottom, and it should give you the option to raise a hand. So you can raise a hand, and then Shania will let me know that your hand is raised, and we will attempt to answer any of your questions. There will be times when I will ask you to ask questions as well. One of the things that I'd like you to also do is to make use of the chat. So you can see in the bottom, you've got the chat if you're not used to using Zoom. If you pop that up on your right, and then you can type in there if you want to, and you can talk to each other in there as well. So you get to talk to others in your community. So you can say hello, as Leslie's just done. Also in the chat, it would be good if you could put in there any burning questions that you would really like answered today, and we will do our very best between me and the team to answer those questions. If we can't answer them for whatever reason, it might be that we run out of time, or it might be that we just don't know the answer. We'll go away and find out, and we will let you know. This is the first one in a series of free workshops that we're going to be doing. So these free workshops are really designed by you in terms of we want to give you value and give you information that you might want to know. So it would really help us to know what you want to know, essentially. So if you have any burning questions that you want answered today, please pop them in the chat. A little bit later on, I'm going to be asking you a similar question, which is around what do you want to learn in the future? And we're going to show you jam boards, which is very exciting, which is something that we use within Memory Matters to do our groups, to do the reality orientation board. And I'm going to get you to use jam boards to give me some feedback in terms of what you'd like to know going forward. Brilliant. Okay, so let's just see a raise of hands for those of you that work within the NHS. So if you can raise your hand if you work within the NHS. 1, 2, 3, 3. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome. 4. Danny down there as well. Hi, Danny. Great. Okay, and can you raise your hand if you work for charity or third sector organisation? Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Fantastic. So that's lots of you. And finally, if you work privately as either a sole trader or a private business. Doesn't look like there's anybody. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Oh, there's 2 pages. Look, that's lots of you. Can't see you all. Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. That just kind of shows me where everybody's from.
Laura,
Okay.
I think we got 2 questions. Kerry's got her hand up.
Okay, Kerry.
Oh, you're on mute. I'll just ask you to unmute.
Yeah.
There,
Sorry.
perfect.
I've not done this before. So yeah, no, it wasn't a question. I was just raising my hand because I work for the NHS, but I also, my sister runs a group, not long started a group for dementia clients, running a day centre. So I kind of do half NHS, half private.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kerry. Did you say there was another one, Shania?
I think Jan had her hand up. Might be wrong though.
Jan?
I was just like putting my hand up for the private sector. Sorry.
Brilliant. No problem.
Brilliant. So you're private sector, Jan?
Yeah, I've just left the NHS and I've just taken a job with a private company looking at remote monitoring technology and use of technology for connecting with people. So I'm just obviously here to find out how my role in terms of the clinical services director and clinical safety officer can perhaps facilitate some connections and also look at what we can learn as a company to provide for people through technology.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you. It's lovely to have you with us. Okay, I'm gonna crack on, I think. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is that we often have preconceived ideas about technology. Okay, and I think as a team, this is something that we've definitely noticed over this last year. So we're people, right? And I'm imagining that most of you that are on this call are people. You are skilled at getting the best out of people. You are skilled at talking to people, to listening to people, because essentially that's what our job is, isn't it? Working with people living with dementia. We need to often step into their world and hear how the world is for them. And we're good at it, right? That's why you're here. That's why you do what you do. Now, that tends to go hand in hand with shying away from technology. We're not the sort of people generally who want to be sat in front of a computer all day. So lo and behold, in this last year, many of us have found ourselves working that way. And certainly our team, I noticed a massive shift in them and myself. I include myself in that over the last year in terms of having to move ourselves into a very, very different way of working. And I think we have to be really clear that there are things that hold us back when it comes to technology. Now, it can be a multitude of different things, but here are some of the things that come up, which is things like, I'm not techie. I'm not a techie sort of person. I'm a people person, right? Or I don't know how to do it. What if it doesn't work? What if I look stupid? What if I've got a group of people and I don't know what's happening and I don't know how to share the screen? And all of this stuff can be really frightening. As some of you are nodding at me madly. Yeah, like this is it. Okay. What about how can I possibly teach other people how to get online if I'm not really sure of it myself? If I'm just kind of clicking buttons and I just happen to get there, but I'm not quite sure how I do it. It's too hard. So if any of this kind of mindset stuff is happening to you or has happened to you, maybe you've got through it, or maybe you didn't have it at all. But I think I certainly did. And I know that some of the team certainly did as well. Then what tends to happen is that we stay still and we don't do anything. So in actual fact, our beliefs are holding our clients back, our beneficiaries back from not being able to experience online CST because of our stuff. So there's a lot of stepping over our preconceived ideas about what is. And what then tends to happen is we find excuses, and there are plenty of excuses out there already. So I've already spoken to quite a few people within the NHS who say to me, we can't because we're not allowed to use Zoom. Or what about confidentiality? Or what about this? Or what about that? Now, everything we can do everything. We just need to find solutions. And sometimes that means that we have to work with managers and above managers to find what we can do and how we can do it in a way that is safe. Of course, we want to make sure that people are safe and do it in a way that works. So anything is doable if we're driven to do it. But you can see how right at the first hurdle, many of us can fall. And I know this because I've had many conversations over this last year from colleagues in various different sectors who've said to me, we really want to get online, but there are all these reasons why we can't. And when we start to dig down into what those reasons are, that very often it's our own mindset. And actually, if we're with other people who are of the same mindset, particularly if we're all people, we'll all fall back on those excuses and not do it. So that's just us, right? And then we've got people living with dementia. So one of the things that I hear is people with dementia can't do it. It's too much. And then I also hear people with dementia don't want to do it. So when we look at can't, with CST, we're looking at people with mild to moderate dementia. So there are some things that we can expect in terms of people are going to find it difficult to sequence. They're going to find it difficult to follow complicated instructions. And we've certainly experienced that in this last year. But there are ways around it. So we have found that by doing very clear instructions with photographs, and Shania has been amazing and created this.
Okay, I'm on my mobile.
Hello, Shirley.
Hello.
Would you like to put yourself on mute?
I'm on the phone to somebody else as well, and I'm going
to mute you. I love it. I love Zoom. This is what doing Zoom groups is like. So, okay. So, very clear instructions with just one line of instructions and a photograph in a booklet or in a PDF works a treat. And then, of course, you can mail them out to people so they actually have them physically with step-by-step instructions of what to do. Having family, and certainly we didn't have this in the first lockdown. We had some people who were living completely on their own, and family were not allowed to go in, or nobody was allowed to go into the house. So that was really very difficult. But now we're in a situation where we can get help. So if there's a family member who can help set things up to the point where it's just, you know, they just need to type in a Zoom number, that's great. And we encourage the use of the most easy technology that we can find. So one of the things that we have been promoting is the use of portals. So portals seem to be a really easy way, Facebook portals, really easy way of getting onto Zoom. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about portals in a bit, but finding the most simple way to get the person online is we have found is really beneficial. And the other thing is your co-facilitator being somebody, when you have a facilitator and a co-facilitator, usually in a group, your co-facilitator is there to ensure that people are being heard, that they can reflect any quiet speakers into the group. On Zoom or when you're doing it online, the co-facilitator also has a bit of a tech role too. And she might be the person that puts people on mute and gets on the phone and helps them through any situations that they're having. So that is can't. So first of all, have we tried everything in terms of helping them to get online? Have we put everything in place? And then the second one was they don't want to. And this is another one that I hear a lot. Well, they don't want to do it. So I would suggest if they don't want to do it, it might be as simple as that. They don't want to. Some people don't. Some people don't want to do technology and that's it. But I would always ask, have we enrolled them enough into what they will get from being in a CST group? Have we had that conversation where they really understand what they're coming to? So it's never, in my experience, it's just as simple as I don't want to. There's usually something in the way. Now, remember how we are when we don't want to do something, or when we're afraid of something, we may present as, I don't want to do it because it's too scary. I'm not sure what to do. So I think that what's really helpful is being completely authentic within the groups. And I think all of our team do this. When we first started, all we wanted was for people to be connected. That was it. It didn't matter if we couldn't get the CST sandwiched in there. As long as they were seeing each other and they were connecting, then that was enough. And I think by lowering the bar that much to say, let's just get them online to start with, really helped. And being authentic and saying, we're not sure how this is going to work. We don't know how this is going to translate, but we're going to try it because we really want you to see each other. And we really want to have some fun together. And mistakes will happen. Things will happen. They always do on Zoom. And that's okay. That's totally okay. So are they enrolled enough into the idea? Can they see why they would benefit from coming along to a CST session? The hassle worth it is the question. So anything that we do, is the hassle worth it, is what we're weighing up. Because it is a hassle. It is a hassle trying to learn something new. It is a hassle trying to do technology when you've never had it in your life before. So things like social time, it's very sociable being in a CST group. It's fun. Our beneficiaries tell us they make friends. they feel less lonely, their quality of life increases. Now, that's all very well. We can say that to people, but it doesn't mean anything when we just throw numbers at it. But if we say things like, you know, when's the last time that you had a really good chat with somebody? Because, you know, we have some really good chats, and these are the sort of things that we chat about. And then you might give an example of, you know, last week we were talking about all the sorts of things that we might take on holiday with us, or some other topic. Yeah, I mentioned the fact that people feel less lonely when they come along to the sessions, but that might not be something that you want to say in your enrollment call. You're going to feel less lonely because, of course, there's stigma around feeling lonely. But concentrating on the positive, i.e., you'll make new friends and you'll have some really good fun discussions. And then you can talk about the things that they may be having difficulties with and how CST can help them do that. So thinking about the social connections, the learning of new things. We all love to learn new things. And I think that's the one thing in CST, is that you are discovering new things, new conversations all the time. And the other thing to say is, if you've done all that and you've had that big, deep, long conversation about all of those things, and they're still saying, I don't want to, then I think that's an I don't want to. You've explored it enough. But what I am saying is it is really worth exploring it and not just taking the first I don't want to. And we certainly had one lady who didn't, in fact, I think we had a couple, I think Sophie will correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a couple of women who didn't want to come along initially, not interested in the slightest, never used technology, don't want to, thank you very much. And what we did is we kept engaging them by sending out newsletters with photographs of the group, screenshots of the group and what we talked about. And over time, I think it took about 6 months or so, both of those women came online. One of them we needed to get a portal and Wi-Fi for, because they'd never had even internet connection before. And both of those, I believe, are still coming along. So it can be done, and sometimes it takes a lot more time than you think it might. So don't give up, keep revisiting it. So let's talk about the tech. Okay, you don't have to be an expert. Is that a relief? You really don't have to be an expert. We're not experts at all. This isn't what Memory Matters do. We're not tech people, and yet somehow we're managing to do a workshop today. So we just have to take it on, try it, do your best, and that's all we can do. And keep it simple. You know, if you don't want to use breakout rooms and you don't, because you haven't done it yet, that's fine. Just keep it really simple. Keep it a really simple Zoom conversation, just like you'd have with your friends over lockdown. I think one of the great things about, the only great thing probably about lockdown, is the fact that we've all kind of got a bit more used to seeing each other in little boxes on our screens. So keeping it simple for people living with dementia means using simple tech if we can. So as I think Shania's already put the link in with Facebook portals, but basically we would say that Facebook portals are your friend. They're very, very simple for people to use, and they're affordable for most people. So £150 for a 10-inch one. I've got one here that I can show you. So that's the size of it. And you can, it's integrated with Alexa as well, so you can set it up to do reminders for tablets and all sorts of things. It follows you around the room, so you don't have this situation that we often have in Zoom, where you see the top of people's head or you see this, because it follows your face, it finds your face, and so the person is always sort of center, which is great. I guess the downside of Facebook portals is the person needs to either have a Facebook account or you need to use Facebook Workplace. And I guess that's one of the added advantages of our fellowship, is that we can help you do that. So you can use, your beneficiaries can use our Workplace to get them online. Zoom is integrated in it as an app, and it's very simple to use. So as I said, we have to make it so that there aren't lots of different things the person has to do. So if we probably think the easiest way to get on Zoom is to get an email with a Zoom link, and we click on the Zoom link and hey presto, we're in Zoom. But for somebody who has cognitive challenges, actually think about how many steps that is. So first of all, you've got to remember that you will get an email. Then you've got to find your emails. Then you've got to find the right email and find the correct link. Click on the link, and that will launch Zoom, and then that will give you another little box that comes up that you have to click OK on. Now, without cognitive difficulties, that's actually quite easy for us. We just click on and it's fine and we know what's happening. But for somebody with dementia, that can be really quite difficult. There's lots of different things that that person has to do. So what we found is with using the portals is that we just give them the number of the meeting room, or the meeting ID it's called, and they just have to type that in. So there's a box that comes up, they click on Zoom, there's a box that comes up and they type their number in, which they might have on a notepad or they might have it on their instructions. They type that in. We take the password off completely, so there isn't a second step, and they're in. It's that simple. Now, when we first started doing a project with the Devon group, some of you are here, we experimented with using Facebook Workplace as the place that we could have the sessions within, but we found that it wasn't up to the job. The reason that we'd chosen it is because you can actually then use the portals to call somebody. So all they then have to do is just click on a green button and they're in their group. But unfortunately, the technology was just not the same as Zoom at all. We had a lot of echo, and it was very confusing for people with dementia. It was confusing for us, to be fair. As a staff group, we trialed it for a while and spent time rocking like this because it was awful. So the second best thing was to put Zoom onto the Facebook portals and use it that way. The other thing that I want to give a mention to is grandpads, and I know we've got Sue, give us a wave. So Sue has some experience of using grandpads. What's great about grandpads, it's $59.95 a month, but they give 24/7 tech support. And the feedback that we've had from Sue is that can be great if you don't want to be the person on the end of the phone saying press this, do that, whatever. Then grandpads is a good option for people if they obviously can afford to do that. So keep it simple as you can. The less steps, the better. And the other thing is just a word around safety. So I said to you then, didn't I, that we take the password off, which obviously makes a lot of people go, oh, is that safe? Well, it is, because you've got a co-facilitator. You should have a co-facilitator who's going to keep an eye on the waiting room, and you only let people in who you recognise. Okay, so it's very important that the people that come into your groups have their names written, and if they don't, that you've kind of worked out who they are. So if they always come in as iPad 1 and you know that's Derek, then you can work out that that's Derek as iPad 1. And of course, if you do accidentally let anyone in, you can very quickly shut that down and get them out again. So it is pretty safe, I would suggest. Yeah, so basically all software has its own pros and cons. We can only talk about Zoom because that's all we've used, or we can talk about Facebook Workplace as well, because we definitely tried that out. But we haven't tried doing CST on Teams. We don't have experience on that, so we can't necessarily answer your questions on that. But it really is worth, if you can, joining our CST Facebook group if you haven't done already. In there are lots and lots of CST facilitators with lots of different experiences. So you can post in there any question to anybody, but there will be people in there who can give you their experience of using, for example, for using Teams. So do that, and I do suggest that you get into that group as well, because the other thing that you will get is access to other free workshops and lots of other things as well. So I saw a little thing in the chat there that said, I'm running CST for the NHS on MS Teams. Brilliant. Amy, can you take yourself off mute a minute? If you don't have to.
Yeah, that's fine.
How is that? How is Teams working for that?
It's going really well because we've had to use Teams because we work for the NHS, so we can't use Zoom
Yeah.
because of license.
Okay.
And it actually works really well. So we get people in. People have to set up an app on their phone or on their tablet. We are doing the groups where they're doing CST and the family are doing it with them to help with technology as
Okay,
well. But it's going really well.
Thanks, Amy. That's really good to have that feedback. Thank you. That's good to know. And also, I'll tell you what else is really good to know is you just gave me an answer as to why the NHS can't use Zoom, because I've heard all different stories and it changes with whoever tells me. So the fact, and that makes absolute sense that it's in the licensing, because obviously if you're going to run a Zoom session for more than 45 minutes with more than one other person, you need to pay for a Zoom license. So that makes absolute sense, doesn't it, as to why, particularly if the NHS have decided that they're using Teams as their form of communication. Brilliant. Okay, so now I think it would be really good to tell you how CST translates online in terms of how does the protocol of cognitive stimulation therapy translate to being online. So some things work really well and some things just don't. So that's good to know. So we know that cognitive stimulation therapy has a specific protocol that it goes through. So we start with the song. Okay, so if we're in a group setting, we would play a song on our speaker on Spotify or wherever, and we would all sing along. You may print out the words and everybody sings along and everybody's merry. In a Zoom situation, you can imagine this doesn't quite work quite as well as you might imagine. Anyone who's tried doing Zoom choirs will know that it doesn't work because you've got this latency. So by the time you've heard it and sung back and I've heard you sing it back, we've got all sorts of things going on and it just doesn't work. So one of the things that you can do, and I'm not saying this is the best way to do it, but one of the things you can do is select, for example, a YouTube clip of a song and then play it. And then you can be watching something while you're singing along. So that's one way of doing it. We've used Spotify as well. We have a Spotify account, so we can use that, and you just have to make sure that you share your computer audio. I think we had a few issues with that initially, not realizing that you had to do that for everyone else to hear what you're merrily singing along to. So the song happens, as you probably know, at the beginning, at the end of every session. The news piece, so we always talk about the news and we always look for, if we can, for a good news story to share. I think there's enough not so good news stories at the moment. I think everybody really quite enjoys that, finding a good news story to talk about. The thing that I would say there is that you need to prep it really beforehand, particularly if you want to show them visuals. So rather than just jumping onto the BBC News site and sharing your screen or any other news outlet, you'll find that if you do that, probably not the BBC, but other ones, that you'll get adverts popping up and you really can't control those adverts. So I think somebody was telling me, I'm sure it's somebody that was in here, was sharing their screen and they had adverts for pants coming up whilst doing it, and it could have been so much worse. But I mean, to be honest, that's a really good conversation in itself. But if you want to have some control over your news story, it would be good to create a slide beforehand so that you've really thought out what pictures you're going to show, and obviously not having the whole news article, but sort of some of the main parts of the story, and then some questions that you can ask around how do they feel about it, what do they think about this, and create that conversation. The word warm-up in physical groups, we usually throw a ball around. So we'd be throwing a ball and we'd be asking them to name something from a category. So things you find in a caravan, things you find at the beach, colours, you name it. Now, obviously, we can't do that in Zoom. I think we've done a few experiments in terms of passing the ball over to your boxes, like imaginary ball over to your boxes. But that can be quite complicated, I should imagine. So things like A to Z are great. So thinking about the categories that the theme that you're having that day. So for example, if it's childhood, you might ask about childhood games you played, or it's just really getting people to think of words and saying them out loud, essentially. If it's holidays, it could be, what would you put in your suitcase? You know, those sorts of things that use imagination as well as word finding. The RO board. So I think Shania is going to share her screen for me.
Yep.
And I'll just show you. So this is Jamboards. And again, in the Facebook group, there's a lovely session that Sue took, actually. Sue, who's in the room somewhere, around how to use Jamboards as for your RO board, and actually for your whole session. But Jamboards is great. It's Google Jamboards, so you need a Google account. But it's really worth having a look at these. So this is one of the Jamboards. So here we would say welcome to, and we would be looking for the name of the group. So the group always names themselves. So let's call ourselves the Tuesday Troublesomes. Can you spell that, Shania? So Shania would just put that on the sticky note.
Trouble.
Yeah, that's it. SOMES. Yeah. There we go. So yesterday was Monday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. So today is, and then hopefully somebody would say Tuesday. Now this all helps with reality orientation. So we wonder where you would look to find out the time. So this gives people that option to be able to look for the time. Maybe it's on their newspaper, maybe it's on their watch. And then Shania would draw in the time. Now this is all Sue's idea, Sue Batty, who's in the room, who showed us how to do this. So you would stick the time in, which is, well, 36 minutes past 1. Should we go for 40 past 1? Would that be easier? Or 35 past 1? Nicely drawn. Is it fiddly?
Really fiddly. It's not as easy as it looks.
Amazing.
Oh my. You get the drift.
That's good enough. And I think, you know, that's the key thing with these CST groups, is we have that is a really good example of being vulnerable and being like just turning up and doing your best, because that's what people want to see, us being humans. Okay, and so also the other things that we would put on there might be what season it is, or we might ask people to look out of the window and say what they can see out of their window in terms of the weather. So that's great. Yeah. The date, you know, and whereas usually we would use an actual board, we can now use the wonder of technology to use Jamboards. So do go and have a look at Jamboards and have a little play with it. I'm going to get you to play with it in a minute, actually, because I'm going to get you to do some sticky notes for us. So that's what the RA board looks like. And then I think Shania is just going to show us some examples of some slides for the main topics. So in the project that we've just done in Devon, we provided all of the slides for people to be able to use to run their groups. So there's the welcome slide. There's the good news story. What types of holidays are there? So that's a good word warm up. I need a word warm up. Here we go. Brilliant. I love that picture. There's the seagulls that steal your chips. So winter holidays and summer holidays, memories of making sandcastles. What might be in your holiday suitcase? It's a great great conversation starter, and a great one to do a list of words that we would put inside your suitcase. Look at that. Brilliant. Or the 99. Do people still send postcards? Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Fabulous. And then we've got a bit of Cliff Richard's summer holidays, because who doesn't want that at the end of the slideshow? Brilliant. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the sorts of conversations that we have. And it might be that actually we only use 3 or 4 of those slides, because, you know, you have an hour essentially. I mean, I know that CST is meant to be 45 minutes, but in true style, it's usually about an hour. I know that sometimes we have the ability to run over a bit as well, but we have to be really aware of Zoom fatigue. It's a real thing. You might all be starting to be Zoom fatigued now over lunchtime, but yeah, it's a real thing. So we need to be really aware of that, particularly when we're expecting people to concentrate for a long time, which can be, you know, quite difficult if you are living with a dementia. So the other thing that I just wanted to mention was around loved ones and carers, because it's really important, because they're a really important part of this. So it is really important that we enroll. You know, I talked about enrolling the person with dementia onto CST and talking about what they'll get out of it and why, but we also have to enroll the carer or the loved one or the person who's going to be supporting that person. It's really important that they understand what CST is about, and that to really support that person, they need to understand a little bit about how we use CST. So we don't put people on the spot. Yeah, that's a really important one, because very often loved ones or carers, if they are in the room while we're doing the session, can often jump in and say, come on, Eric, you know the answer to this question, which is absolutely the opposite of what we're trying to create in the way that we communicate. So we don't want, so for the loved one, we need to be saying to them, we don't want right and wrong answers. That's not the aim. The aim is to create conversation and for that person to feel included in the conversation. And that's far more important than anything. We also have an agreement with carers and loved ones as well, in terms of how we expect, what we expect from the carer in terms of support, and it's written in a really lovely way, so it's really supportive of them, but gets them to kind of look at how they can best support their loved one. And some of it we ask them, you know, to leave the person in the room if they're okay, to leave them to go and do something else for an hour, so that we, you know, they can have just be themselves within the group. We've always found in community groups that we've run that people respond far better when they don't have the carer or their loved one around, because they're not afraid of getting things wrong, because they're not going to be corrected. They're not going to have somebody who knows them very well to be able to correct them and say that didn't happen, or that it didn't happen like that. And the same goes for Zoom. It's so much more difficult because we are actually zooming into their house, which is quite different, isn't it, in terms of who can be there. So yes, enrolling the person who is caring for the person with dementia is really important too. So making sure that they're part of those conversations and feel like they're being listened to as well. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is I want you to try the Jamboard. So Shania, do you have the link to that Jamboard I set up today, or do you've got it? She's nodding at me. Okay, so Shania's going to pop a link in the chat. What I want you to do is to go onto the link, and on the left-hand side of the Jamboard, you will see let me go on so I can look at it and tell you. A little sticky note. So it's the 1, 2, 3, the fourth one down under the arrow. If you click on that, and then you can type on the sticky note. And what I'd like you to type is anything that you would like to know in future workshops. So as I said, we're going to do lots of different workshops, and I want to make sure that we get subjects that you really want to know about and you'd like to learn more about, and we'll put them together and put them on. Okay.
Laura,
so,
we got a question.
Yeah.
Ruth said in the chat, I was wondering why PowerPoint wasn't used.
Yeah, no reason why you can't use PowerPoint. It's just that we, in our organization, we use Google Slides. So we just use the Google Suite for everything. The link doesn't work on the NHS website. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, anyone who's on NHS websites and you can't get on, you can just pop in the chat anything that you would like us to cover in future workshops. Although it kind of takes away the fun. What you'll have to do is when you're not there is get onto Jamboards and see what you can do. And I wonder if that's all the time that you won't be able to go on the Jamboards, or whether it's just our link that you're not allowed on. Okay, so does anyone have any burning questions for me and the team? I'm going to open this up to the team as well, who are even more, because they're doing it every single day, every single week. That's good to know, Amy. The magic of the IT people. So any burning questions for me or the team around what do you want to know about virtual CST? Oh, Charlotte's on it. Our IT is strict and a bit mean. Brilliant. Right, anyone got any questions at all? Nothing.
There's one in the Jamboard, Laura.
Yeah.
Are videos best used embedded within Google Slides or just by sharing YouTube web pages?
Do you want to answer that, Shania? Have you got more experience of that than me?
No, I haven't, to be honest. Sophie, when you're making the slides?
You know what, it's a bit of a techie question that I don't know the answer to. I've got a feeling there's a way of embedding them into the slides with a bit of software. I'll tell you who's the one, and she's not here, who works on the Devon project. Veronica was always
Okay.
the queen of that, so we can find out.
Yeah.
Who asked that question? Because I can find out for you and send you an email. Abby. Okay, perfect.
Brilliant. And Sophie, because you do you show video, Sophie, in your sessions?
You know what, at first we did. I was kind of braver, and then I kept trying to use, you know, whatever YouTube clips and Pathé News clips, and that's when things would start to go wrong. So it's sort of I've been put off for a while, but it's something I think we really should reintroduce, you know, confidently, because it can really enhance a session.
Yeah.
You know, we can bring in little bits of music, can't you, and video and adverts, and it's endless. So yeah, it's something I need to embrace more.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because it's also really important that you're comfortable with what you're doing, isn't it? So it's about weighing that up and making sure that you're not so far out of your comfort zone that it feels really out of control, which is kind of, you know, what I said at the beginning when we first started. It was just literally, let's just get all these people in a Zoom room and that would be amazing. And then we'll do the next step, and then we'll do the next step. So it's just making sure, I guess, that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone bit by bit. But yeah, as long as people are chatting and are embracing the CST, I'm sure it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, there is a lot out there that you can use, and I think I mean, again, Sophie, sorry to put you on the spot again, but you know, there's been other things that you've utilized really well, like online galleries and those sorts of things, haven't you? Is it that I can't remember what it's called, but the Google,
Google Arts and Culture. Yeah, I've used that a few times, and that does seem to work well. It hasn't, you know, crashed spectacularly the times I've used that. That's obviously one that, yeah, that works all right. That's well worth a look at if people haven't looked at it already.
What was that called again? Google
Arts and Culture. It's an app that you just download for free, and there's so much on there if people are interested in art and culture.
Yeah. Brilliant. And that's the same one that has, and you may have seen this going around on social media, but it's got those blobs that you can you can pull up and squash down, and they make different make different sounds with different instruments. People are looking at me like, what is she talking about? It's really good fun, and again, a really good one to do in the group. Jackie's nodding at me. Jackie, did you use it in a group? Oh, you're on mute. Good mute face there.
No, I haven't. But yeah, I've seen it, and it's amazing. It's just you can't really describe what it's like. It's definitely worth watching, though.
That's really good. I don't have a clip thingy to line up for you to click on it, but again, we can find it. I think what's going to happen is Shania's going to email you all after this with any links of things that we've talked about. So we'll have a look for the arts and culture one and pop that in, because yeah, it's a really good one to try.
We've got another question, Laura.
Yeah.
How many participants is optimal, from Charlotte?
That's a really good question, and one that I should have covered by now, but I haven't. Yeah, so 4 is really the best. I think at a push, you could probably have 6, but I think what we have kind of decided as a team, that with 4 people and 2 facilitators, that's kind of plenty on the smaller screen. So if you think about the portal as an example, you know, fitting those people on the screen, we need to think about being able to see them. So we always have it as well. We always encourage participants to use gallery view, which means that you can see everybody. That's how I have this at the moment, so I can see all of you at once. That's really important. And I think once you start having too many people, then it's quite tricky. And also, as you probably all know with Zoom, is that you can kind of interrupt each other, and you get that stop start thing that happens, and you go, oh, you go, oh no, you go. So having 4 people is I think we've decided is the best, isn't it, Sophie? And I think the thing is to kind of, if people don't always come, then maybe have 5, and then you generally have 4. But yeah, just see how it goes.
We've got another question from Laura. The CST 14 topics, should these be followed to the book, or can other topics be used / substituted?
So, okay, so if it's the first time that the person is receiving CST, you would be better to stick as closely as you can to those topics, because as we know, that's what's been researched. If they've already had 14 sessions either through the NHS or you've provided the 14 sessions, then you can start to look at different topics. So we tend to use the same topics of either the first book or the second book, so the maintenance sessions as well. And it gives us a really good structure, but also there's so much you can do under all of those headings. So you just need to kind of decide whether, you know, you're categorizing objects or you're, you know, doing household treasures, because you could do household treasures as categorizing objects. There's a lot of overlap. So just, yeah, so we tend to stick to it as much as we can, but we create, because we've been doing this for so long, it would be very boring if we did the same session again and again and again. So we use the topic and then we create new sessions, but making sure that we use those core principles, that's the key thing. So we have a principle check sheet, and each time we write a session, we go back to the principles and make sure that the sessions are ticking off the key principles for that session.
Another question from Ruth. Does anyone have any experience of running a session for people where English is not their first language?
That's a really good question, Ruth, and we don't, unfortunately, down here in Cornwall. Does anybody else in the group who would like to take themselves off mute if they're able to answer that question? Nobody? Sorry, Ruth.
I just have to find my own way through it. I think probably we've got a grant from the National Lottery to, and part of it, well, it was originally going to be memory cafes, but now we've gone online. So I was just looking for some, it'll probably be a co-facilitator who actually speaks the language of the group. I think that's probably how I'll have to do it.
Yeah. And Ruth, are you in our Facebook group?
I think I am.
Brilliant.
So, yes.
I mean, don't feel afraid to ask questions in there, because there are lots of people from all over the place who, and it might be that you might be able to link up with somebody in there who does have experience to be able to support you.
Okay, I'll try that. Thanks.
All right, Ree. Thanks for asking the question. I'm really sorry we couldn't give you an answer. Okay, any more questions? Shania, anyone with a hand raised? Or
No.
so I see Ian, you've commented to say regarding videos,
Yeah.
we put the link into the PowerPoint presentation, but it is good to have the web page open beforehand. Yes, don't forget to click on the optimized video and sound boxes when you share the screen though. Yes, then unclick them when going to do the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, absolutely. These are all the things that we learn as we go along. So thank you, Ian, for your wise words.
Is someone stuck in the Jamboard? How do you get back to the Zoom meeting, please?
Oh dear.
You just have Zoom at the below your screen. Anyone stuck?
Oh, bless you.
I don't know who it was.
Yeah, so basically I think that you are it's to do with your tab, so you need to make that tab the little minus side in the top right hand corner. Click on that and see if you can find Zoom behind it. I'm sorry, whoever you are stuck in the Jamboard. I'm sorry. I sent you off somewhere different. But this is the power of technology. Be prepared to get lost, but be okay with it. Fabulous. So no more questions.
We've got one more from Faddy. How efficient from your experience CST online comparing with face-to-face sessions?
Was the question how efficient?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's interesting. University College London are doing some work on this at the moment. So they're actually taking virtual CST through a trial to see if it is as effective, and we're not going to know the answer to that for a while, I don't think. I think we can talk just from our own experience, and it's not the same. It's not the same as being in a room together. It just isn't. This isn't the same, is it, as us being in the room sharing sandwiches together? But it's certainly something, and it's certainly kept people connected where they otherwise wouldn't have been. So I think, in short, we don't know the answer to that question. We can only say from our own experience that it's been enjoyable, that we have some really good feedback from people to say that from especially from carers and loved ones, who say that people are more engaged in conversation after a group. They're brighter, they are happier. But yeah, until we have some proper scientific feedback, we don't know is the answer to that. And I think the other thing is that we have to get to a point where we can get back into proper groups, and that's certainly something that we're looking at doing too. But having said that, we keep doing some virtual stuff too, because there's a lot of people living in some very rural areas who transport has always been an issue for, particularly down here in Cornwall. So now we know that there's an alternative, that people can be connected and not be lonely and not be isolated anymore. So so it's certainly something that we're doing, and we're rolling out now as well with virtual CST. So it's quite exciting.
And we got a statement from Leslie. She says, worried as I've only done virtual, it will be a steep learning curve to go face to face.
Yeah, but I think you'll love it, Leslie. You'll probably think, oh my goodness, this is so much easier. I mean, having props to touch and things to look at.
It'll be a breeze face to face.
Oh, Leslie, go on.
Yeah, is there yeah, I'm just thinking, is it more prep time? I mean, there's prep time when I'm doing virtually and I do the presentations and I usually put all that together, but getting all the props and materials and things, is it more time consuming? Or
Sophie, do you want to answer that one?
No one wants.
Sophie, oh, I think she's frozen.
Sorry, yeah, I've got really dodgy internet. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's hard to say really with timings. I would say it's comparable, really.
Okay.
Yeah, but probably personally, I would say more enjoyable preparing for face-to-face groups, because you can, think about all the senses and props and stuff that you can take with you to touch and smell and taste, and that's the bit I enjoy more. That's what you can't, bring in when you're working online. So, yeah.
And this is, sorry,
you're quite new to it, Leslie. That's all I was going to say. Is that once you get up and running, I don't know if you are, then obviously you have resource boxes and things that you can use.
Yeah, we're just about to start our first one when we went into lockdown. I think I spoke to Laura at the time, and I think I was petrified, because we don't want to stop doing it, because we've got going now. We're about to get going, so we decided to quickly switch it to virtual and learnt on the hoof, if you like.
Yeah, it's the best way. I think so. And saying Sophie saying that about those are the bits that she enjoys. When Sophie does a session, her table is usually full of beautiful
rubbish.
Beautiful things to touch and feel. Obviously lovely thing. If it's spring, then there's lovely daffodils and things, and it is that's an element that we just can't do online. It's just the physical props and the smells and things that we know that the brain works so much better when we go in on lots of different senses.
Is it easier with the engagement? Because sometimes, because of the nature of Zoom and the hesitation, and some people get drowned out if they don't have loud voices, and it's harder not to put someone on the spot.
Yes.
It's much harder than I would imagine with face to face, because you could just look at them. It was, whereas you don't get that on Zoom.
Yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, Leslie.
You pick up on a lot more in a face-to-face group, I would say, don't you? Language and things like that, and if they're quiet, they could be sort of passively engaged, but they're okay. Whereas on Zoom, it's kind of all or nothing somehow.
And are there any tips for that sort of virtually? Because we may well still go ahead like you virtually as well as face to face. Are there any tips on that engagement with people without putting them on the spot?
Yeah, it's just to keep drawing people in, isn't it? And keeping them interested. I think it can be really obvious when they're not interested, to the point they might fall asleep or even get up and walk away. I guess I've had that happen. Knowing, having a bit of background about the people in the groups to so you can draw them in and keep them interested is quite important. And then the other end of the spectrum is when you have people that dominate in a group. That's really hard on Zoom. If you've got one that talks endlessly, I suppose you can mute them.
The trouble is they don't always know how to take themselves off mute. and that's, I don't think, unless anyone can tell me otherwise, I don't think there's a way of taking people off mute. You can put them on mute, but you can't take them off, can you? Does anyone have an answer?
You can ask to unmute them, so it sends them, and then they just have to press accept, but you can't take them off without them giving permission.
And that's really difficult, because sometimes they, the pure nature of it, their other half set them up and gone.
I accidentally did it the other day, with a chap, a lovely quiet man, and I accidentally muted him. I had to ring his wife to unmute him.
Wonderful. Oh, thank you anyway.
Brilliant.
Sorry.
Well, thank you. No, thank you all actually for coming, and thank you for I just had a quick look at the Jamboard as well, so lots of ideas on there, so thank you ever so much for that. So as I said, we'll be doing more free workshops because we just want to hear more about what you need and help you to get CST out there to as many people living with dementia as possible, as is our mission. So you'll hear from us again. As I said, Shania, we've got all your emails because you signed up for event through Eventbrite. So Shania will be emailing you all the links that we talked about today. And we will also, if it's okay with you, keep you up to date with any new workshops that we put on. And as I said, get in the Facebook group because it's a lovely community if you're not in there already. Don't be afraid to ask questions in there. All of the team are in there. Sophie's in there, Shania's in there, I'm in there. And we're there to answer questions and serve you. So have an amazing day, have an amazing week. Any of you that want to, we also do a coffee get together at 3:30 on a Tuesday, every Tuesday. So we've got that today. So do come along if you want to. Again, all of the joining links are in the Facebook group. And that is just a very casual little group where we all get together and talk about the different sessions we've been doing that week, the news stories. We share ideas about what we've been doing and any golden nuggets that people have gone away and found. Sue comes along sometimes, and Sue's had some great, thank you Sue for waving, had some great input in terms of how to use Jamboards. So we all learn from each other. It's fantastic. So do come and join us in there. Brilliant. Thank you, Dani. I got your message and I will email you. All right, lovely. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
I just keep waving. Do you think we'll do this like when Zoom's finished, we'll all just wave at each other at the end of meetings? Bye. Still waving. Bye. Don't go anywhere, Shania, because I need to save the chat. Still waving.
I'm not going. Can I remove them? Can I stop recording?
Oh. Yes, can you do that?
Yeah.
I can.